Around that time, I bought a farm in Missouri. This is it. I bought a 60-acre farm in Missouri, and I moved out there, started teaching classes on all sorts of things: solar, wind, green building, energy efficiency. So we completely remodeled this place to make it super energy efficient. And you come visit sometimes. This has become a really, really cool center. That was the original farmhouse. That was the original farmhouse. It was actually pretty good. It was nicely oriented for passive solar. Of course, the first thing I did is insulated it, put solar hot water on it, and put the solar electric system on. And then a year later, unfortunately, the mice had their way with the electrical wires and we lost it. The house burned to the ground. So it was a tragedy. It was a tragedy, but it gave me the opportunity to start from scratch. So I built this home. This is about as green as you can possibly get. It's super, super energy efficient home built with lots of green building materials, very, very self-sufficient. Now, I'll tell you some of the things that we did in there. When we designed it with just to be crazy efficient. I mean, insanely efficient. You know, some people thought I was a little insane. But the walls of the home, exterior walls, are 17 inches thick, packed with cellulose insulation. And it makes that, it allows us to stay so cool in the summer. And this is in Missouri, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. This is in hot, humid Missouri. So we have 17-inch thick walls, insulation value about R60. And in the ceiling, we have 24 inches of insulation. I know that's an overkill, but it was fun. And so we have R100 in the ceiling. And the insulation we use is cellulose, which many of you know is basically ground up newspaper. It's a material that could be wasted. So we use cellulose. Built it very, very airtight. I built the home with two other friends. We did everything but the concrete work. We hired that out. But it's passively heated and cooled. Now, last winter, I'll show you the heating and cooling system that we installed, and it broke down last year. My wife and I decided, let's see what we can do without it. And we actually get through the summers really nicely. It's in Missouri, it's hot and humid, but that house stays so cool with all that insulation. And in the winter, we use two little electric heaters, about 300-400 watts each, in the coldest days to heat an entire 1,300 square foot home. So it's really, really efficient. It's mostly cooled naturally. What we do at the end of a day is open up some windows, turn on a whole house fan, and circulate in some of that cool outside air. So we very, very rarely have to run air conditioning. We have a solar hot water system on the roof, and I'll show you some pictures of that. And the house and our whole farm are powered entirely by solar and wind. I mean, we have a big wind turbine and several solar electric systems to power everything. Of course, when you're buying appliances, look for the efficient ones, look for the super efficient ones. And that's what we did. We used LED light bulbs throughout the house, used a lot of natural plasters that we harvested. Harvested the materials right from the site. I used a fiber cement siding for this building. I didn't use a plaster siding. Fiber cement is a mixture of recycled wood fiber and cement, and it's a really long-lasting product. You know, I'm not that keen on cement and concrete, but I wanted something that I just didn't have to maintain. And you might ask me, well, why didn't you build straw bale? And I really wanted to, but the house burned down in January of 2011. And the fire commissioner, or whatever his title was for the county, just said there will be absolutely no straw bale buildings in my jurisdiction. And I didn't really feel like fighting him. I had enough troubles going on. trying to rebuild the house and get the insurance company to cooperate with me. So I just didn't feel like fighting that battle. And so that's why we framed it up more conventionally, but insulated the daylights out of it. Once again, when you build an airtight home, you want to be careful you don't poison yourself with your paints and stains and finishes. So we used all non-toxic paints and stains and finishes. So it has a healthy interior. And we've really gone crazy on compost toilets. We've got, how many systems do we have now? We've got a compost toilet in the house and then 2 of them out in our classroom building. So we compost all the human manure. We have a big compost bin, and we empty the toilets whenever they're needed and put it in the compost pile, cover it with straw, and put a lid on it because dogs love human manure. So, and I don't know why we spend all this money on exotic on exotic dog foods when they just love poop. But in any event, you want to prevent that from happening. So, and then we used all kinds of recycled materials, even the doormats and some of the carpets in the hall and in the entryway are made out of recycled rubber. The main doormat on the side entry is actually old rope from lobster crabs. So it was kind of cool. It was stuff that would have been thrown out. And they make this company in Florida makes these mats. And we happened to be in Florida and bought one, thought it was kind of cool. We have multiple organic gardens. We grow lots and lots and lots of our own food. And of course we feed it with the compost from our compost pile, several compost bins. And we virtually recycle all of our waste, anything organic kitchen scraps, yard trimmings, and human manure all get composted in the same pile. And, some of you may be leery about that, but it's actually really quite safe if you do it right. What happens in a compost pile is when you pile this stuff in there, you dump the excretions. We use sawdust toilets. So you take a dump and then you throw some sawdust in there. And when it fills up, you dump it in the compost pile. And shortly after you dump it in there, these naturally occurring bacteria take over and they start just, digesting all the waste, the sawdust, the toilet paper, and the manure. And shortly after they get going, the temperature in the compost pile rises to about 120 degrees. And then once they get kicking butt, literally, another group of bacteria take over, and the temperature within that compost pile rises to about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And it doesn't need to, that temperature kills anything that's potentially toxic, whether it's a bacterium or a virus or a parasite or parasite eggs. So nature has a way of basically making this stuff healthy, making it non-toxic. Now we have multiple rain catchment systems. We have one on the house, and that one, I'll show you some pictures of it. We also have one on the classroom building and one on one of our barns. I haven't mentioned this, but we raise grass-fed beef. We've got a really small herd. We're kind of phasing out of it. I'm a vegetarian, and so I don't that's just a whole nother story. But we have grass-fed beef. We raise free-range chickens. And at one time we had over 120 chickens. We sell eggs in farmers markets. We had at one time about 120 or 130 ducks, and we also sold eggs from them. And what else we got? Well, we've got some guinea hens, although something got in there the other day and wiped them all out. Anyway, so we have a lot of animals, and the rain catchment systems, 2 of them are for the cattle. So that we don't have to pump groundwater up to the surface to water cattle. Now, we've just played with so many things. shortly after I moved out there, we bought an old Chevy S10 truck and converted it to electricity, which was really, really fun. It was a great experience. And I currently drive an electric car now, which is powered entirely by solar and wind. We converted the front yard to an orchard. There was only one tree in the front yard when we moved there. Now we've got at least a dozen trees. We've got apples and pears and peaches. It's our edible landscape. It's just perfect for us. And we harvest a lot of wild berries like the elderberries. We encourage their growth. And we had a new plant, for example, just popped up on the front lawn last year, and it's become beautiful, right up next to the house. It's a beautiful, beautiful bush that produces tons of elderberries. And my wife makes various tonics with those.
My dad's Danny doesn't fly.